It's fun.
I know I saw trash cans.
It's back behind me. Oh, yeah. Good. I'm running a little bit.
Mike is not gonna be here. The FYI, is every year for me.
Mike Hanson.
Oh, what did I say?
Said Mike.
Okay, I do get my last names and stuff.
I printed it. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Four for four, right? Yeah.
We still need water. Should have brought some.
I actually have some in my trunk.
That's okay.
My little guy's birthday party, I
Oh.
overbought.
How old?
They turned 4 and 5.
Wow.
So we had a joint birthday party and Miss Kim, the animal lady, came out.
Oh, how cool. Where did you have that?
At the pavilion. It
Cool.
was a great rental idea, you know, after the time you go through some of those private places. I didn't have to count how many kids were there, I could just open and fight.
Oh, and those kids love to run that hall.
Nice big
It was
area.
fantastic.
Oh, good.
So eerie music playing in the background.
It's the best. I think it's
Yeah.
the best.
Wow.
What is
It's loud.
Another noise that makes me try to.
The vents.
Oh, that's a vent?
Yeah.
So,
I was wondering if it was music too.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it's the fan on the computer.
It's a couple of different
It
noises.
sounds like drums or something in the background.
Yeah, I suppose
Yeah.
when it's quiet after hours, you've got.
It really
stands out.
Yeah, that's great.
I? Yeah, I know. Yeah, right on the border between more things that work and more things that don't.
I can relate.
Like there's always something.
You're still young.
Well, let me tell you, this last year is HB10, so.
Oh, really?
We were used to for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, COVID?
No, I almost wish. I had methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus.
Oh, my God.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
MRSA,
Oh, okay.
formed a nice little abscess on my spine.
Oh, wow.
Then by the time it got diagnosed, I was in sepsis.
Did you get it in a hot tub?
No, I don't know where I got it.
I had
Probably
two
work.
friends who got in the hot tub at YMCA.
Do not wish it
What were
on.
they doing in a hot tub together at the YMCA? We won't talk about, but it's
Probably
that's where they got it.
Interesting.
Are we-
Lived
are
in
we
Maddox
live?
for 6 months. With that, I lived in Maddox for 6 months.
Yes, and it did get into their spines. They had to have their bottom, both of them had their bottom two things fused.
I didn't have to go that far. I just had to get a needle biopsy or a needle.
Yeah, they stick a needle right up inside it. That's awful.
I had a,
Too bad.
we call it PICC line. It's a tube that they're running through your arm and into your blood system. And daily IV antibiotic infusions and
Are you done with it now?
almost. I'm done with the antibiotics. I just got a couple more follow-ups and I think. The difference, wait another minute.
Okay. Really? The mayor was complaining about. But you've got, it's 6 o'clock now, yeah, the clock is
That clock's slow.
minutes slow, minute and a half slow.
Let's go ahead and call it to order. Call meeting to order at 6. Stand for the pledge.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens' comments?
Dawn. Should we just, should we talk now or you wanna wait or?
I mean, you have things on the agenda. I think.
Okay.
If you want me to speak to any of them, we'll do it at that time.
Okay, sure.
Yes.
All right. All right, now Angie, the hard questions. Do you know what we have for a CDA balance?
Do you need me to do a roll call first?
Oh,
Yeah, we probably should.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, it's before we get too far. Nicholas Lodahl,
Here?
Kim Olson,
Here.
Bob Smith,
Here.
Lisa Newman.
Yes.
Jason Benstock is not, and Michael Hansen is not. Okay, I apologize for interrupting.
No,
Yes.
I'm cooperating lately, sorry.
I will look to see, I think they were tracking things separately, and I apologize because it came in so late in the year, so try to figure out what everybody was doing and not doing. But I think there's a couple of the residential loan payments still outstanding from, from last year that need to get caught up on. So I will check, but from what I can tell, I think we were definitely over budget last year, I think, from anything I've seen. And then out of the budget for this year, we're still working with the auditors, to try to do some cleanup of the accounting from citywide last year. But there are some concerns that maybe there were some errors in the budgeting process. So what I've said, I can trust that I think every department that's brought in budgets and said, this is what we want to spend, that I can, is pretty accurate. But as far as, the revenues and monies coming in, we're still double checking to make sure we're gonna get in everything we thought we were gonna get in, and then we may have to look at things and rebudget. So that's kind of been the hesitation citywide and department-wide on any big projects. What I can look at, even what you guys had adopted as a draft budget, basically she copied from the previous year. So I don't know if you guys came up with costs, but it had, the boards and commissions, that's probably pretty standard. But you had your promotional advertising, she just copied the amount from the year before. Was that something you were looking at doing again?
But that was down, because we dropped.
For the spectrum,
Yeah, we didn't do the cable part of it,
Right.
we only did the online part, and that was. But whatever bills you have for that would be accurate, because we budgeted a certain amount, but we didn't spend that whole amount, because we canceled the cable section of it.
So you think it'd be closer to what you actually spent than what you.
It's what you
budgeted?
actually, yeah, it wasn't the budget, it would
Okay.
be less, we spent less.
You spent less, okay, because she budgeted it exact. She
And I can
pretty
send
much
you that
copied
number.
everything.
Yeah, I can send you that number.
Okay,
That you should have invoices for, so. Okay.
yeah.
But that for sure is different, and then
And on the old budget, there was a small balance on the CDA fund. But whether it's correct or not remains to be seen. And I do have the old budget at home.
Yeah,
Um,
so, because I'm just looking at what her large budget
Mhm.
file, and that's what I put into the accounting program.
Okay.
But it hasn't coincided with what everybody thought they had agreed on. So we may be, we're waiting to kind of see an audit. If we're gonna have to do a budget amendment and kind of refigure everybody or. So, yeah, if you can send me what you really thought it was supposed to be,
okay,
it'll help.
I can look that up.
But otherwise, as far as expenditures, she had copied. There's 2 line items for developmental incentives. And there was 10,000 budgeted in one and 16,000 budgeted in the other. But I'm not sure what that is, and I thought the residential one was expiring.
You know something about that? There was a reason for that 16,000. Do you remember?
Yes, but that ended, we don't use them anymore, we ended that program. And I think they actually used them up last year. That was, builders incentives were equal to, $1,000.
There was a,
The
like
one-
1 or 2%.
1, 2, 3%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and then the builder got up to the 3rd level.
Yeah,
Then we ended it. The other things, what about the funding for Main Street Mayville or the lead,
Polka dance.
the polka? Did we continue those? I mean, are we giving 5,000 to the
so,
Main Street? I mean, is that in there? Do they have
Yep.
money to spend?
so
We're
those,
still
so those
supporting
ones,
those-
on the line items, I think, like Main Street Mayville sent me the request, and so I've sent out,
Okay.
what I've seen, I've looked back, and if it was on the budget, I've sent everything out to those, like
And
the
the Chamber of
senior
Commerce,
center,
do they get?
the
half or
chamber,
something?
yep. So I've been sending those out as requests come in, which is usually typically how it would happen, they'd send you a letter saying, asking for it, and then I've looked back and seen where that's been in there. So those I've been sending out, so those people can keep functioning,
The other things are some of the money that revolves comes back to these nonprofits that do things like
It
fireworks
carries
and
over.
well, the profit they have remains in some account. That you start off with that again. We don't really fund that stuff. We just kind of support, right?
is that for the fireworks? and all that
Fireworks
one?
and the Audubon days, like that.
That's where I think they were tracking it separately and then
Right,
kind
but
of
we
see.
we had to recognize the fact that it was being done. I guess.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, because I'm new to this, and I'm really, the facade grants, I was always confused about that. I think the last one went with Fred's bed. I'm not sure.
No, it went to the.
Oh, that's right, that little,
Romy's Oakland.
yeah,
Romy's Oakland.
right.
Or lots.
Or less.
That's why I still.
Right. So, well,
What's his name?
the fire chief,
Coke.
The fishing thing. The
Yeah.
fishing.
the fire chief, it's,
Yeah.
chief, what's his name?
Mark.
He runs this,
Yeah.
carp thing and,
Yes, that's going to that business.
okay, I didn't see anything on their facade, it wasn't spent.
Have we funded that one yet, though? We haven't approved the payout on that one yet, have
We
we?
haven't approved the payout, but we agreed, we approved his application.
Right.
Okay,
So
so
is that the end of the funds then?
That,
well, and that's what I'm kind of trying to figure out, like
Yeah.
what's still left to come in that's
So
been approved.
that we haven't gotten, well, he has to finish it, right? And then he's got to send us cement that the work was done. So he has a certain timeline to do that. And the time it was approved, and we
Okay.
can ask for an exception for whatever reason, I guess. But
Right.
And then somebody asked me, you guys can help me, if the cheese lady, what's her name?
Old fashioned cheese, Jesse.
Oh,
I
yeah,
remember that facade, and then she pointed out what she was gonna do, but
nothing's been
now,
done.
yeah, nothing's been done. Did we give her money?
Well, we approved her application, so until she does the work, you can't give her the money. She has to complete the work,
Seems like it's been a year.
but she would be past her
Right.
timeline. So she would actually either, I don't know, she'd have to come back and resubmit or just
Okay.
ask for an extension and then give.
I thought we had already paid it out.
No, you can't pay it out
No,
till it's done, but she hasn't done anything.
They have to turn in the receipts before we give any money.
So they can come in and say, here's what I'm
Right,
expecting it to be.
Now I'm up to date.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Yeah, the last one I remember them actually agreeing to pay out on the spread bet.
Then that would be the last one.
And I will say, I mean, they did a heck of a job.
Oh, yeah, they-
It's definitely for improvement.
So we're just waiting on, well, then Brad Marks will be next, and then we'll be done.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are a couple maybe hanging out there that could pop up.
And they may
That
be
it
funded,
applied.
as far as you know, they're funded still.
So, because unfortunately, finding the comprehensive records has been difficult as well.
What's that?
Finding like the comprehensive records has been difficult, like the application.
You know, this all thing is great, but for us to hear each other is not, just so you know,
Okay.
everybody else can hear but us, ourselves.
Project, you got
We
it.
gotta do something about that too.
So there's not a file with all the applications that were scanned in, because when you get email, I mean, she would email us everything with all that.
But that was coming from Sarah?
Mhm.
Okay. I'll,
there's
I'll
gotta
check
be a-
her emails,
There'd be a file someplace, with you know what I mean? For
because some of it is still the overlap of how someone else did their record keeping versus how, you know, we would expect to find it, may not always flush, so it's still trying to dig some
Sure.
of that out. So knowing emails is a good
She,
starting point.
everything that was going over, including all applications or any receipts or anything would have been sent in the email, because that was always scanned in and emailed to us
Okay,
ahead of
Okay.
time, so it should be in emails.
okay, Okay. thank you.
I think the mayor raised the question because, well, because he was wondering, what can we accomplish if it hasn't, if we are unsure of the funding? And is there any funding for things, new things? And, my only question is, but I think I was at one meeting where somebody ended the Verbacher thing, or did we keep the Verbacher thing, or didn't we sign up for the new extension of it, or?
It's floating yet. There was not a date to date. As I recall, it was.
I know that they were expecting to get funded again for another $10,000 or something, and we didn't do that.
I don't,
Did we?
no, I don't think it came up. Did it come up to vote on?
I looked at the contract is open-ended. It's not like from January first,
Oh,
January
sure.
first, so.
She made a presentation to ask us to, remember she started working she was working for the state, and then she started working for Verbacher. She, in his place, and now she wants to, do what she was doing with the state, with us. And she was asking at the time if we're gonna continue with that. I think that's the last meeting of that, but I don't know that much about it. Do you know anything about it, Nick?
Very little. She was already working for Verbacher by the time I joined the
Right,
board.
she was the one Verbacher had to deal with at the state of Wisconsin, and then she quit that and got a job with people who were working with her.
Is she still contacting the city? I mean, is she still working with anybody at the city, or did that stop at the end of last year?
I have not had. recent
Everything's up in
updates.
the air. Dawn, do you have any comment on this?
You know, I'm just trying to think back to the last meeting that you guys had here as well, and I don't remember a resolution as to whether or not you discontinued them or not.
We did not.
But I have not spoken with her since since way before that, actually,
Mhm.
Yeah,
So it's been quite some time.
quite some time.
I think we tabled what she asked for. She wanted us to take action on renewing it or establishing funding, and we
We've
didn't.
been on hold because we don't know where we're at right now with the finances.
And then we have to have a purpose for why we
Right.
would utilize her, to
Right.
put her on that kind of
Right.
retainer or whatever.
And that was with Beerbroker? Is that what you're saying? Okay,
Bigger.
okay.
They
Do you
were,
remember, like, was that like a 2-year contract or years?
It was open-ended. I did not see a cutoff date on that.
it was,
Contract.
the first year was a year to prove themselves, and then they were gonna make a presentation, which she did. to encourage us to sign an ongoing contract, but the first one was like on, what do you call it?
Contingency?
No, on, when you get greeting cards to look at and you pay,
Yeah.
what do you call it, on approval.
Okay.
And, she was hoping, but then they changed, the person we were dealing with was replaced by the person from the state who,
Okay,
okay. And there was, the gray area was, did we have anything for Verbacher to do anymore, now that we're not gonna pursue any low-income housing, I think it was, or something, and we were looking more for workforce housing, I don't know,
That was more
yeah.
the goal.
I don't know, and see, their idea of development fit in more with the previous mayor than the current mayor, and I think that's where the rub is.
because you had done a couple of the weeding projects,
Right,
you know, was there other projects that kind of fell under that scope?
well,
that
there
were
was a
out there?
potential project that we were gonna use county, you see this on Facebook, we were gonna use county ARPA funds. We applied for $500,000 for an ARPA project. It was all pie in the sky. It was a make up something so we can share in the county ARPA funds, $11 million, the other 16, I think it is up to now. And they were gonna share it with the cities and villages if they could make proposals. Some of them did. They turned down most of them. Ours was going to be for a 50-50 split on a low and moderate income housing that took place, that was going to be either next to the nursing home or over outside, just east of the soccer field, is where it was. But, because it wasn't detailed enough, it was our, went to the county and they were deciding what to do. The mayor withdrew the plan because he didn't think it was, specific enough. This current mayor did. And there's some controversy about whether the council never,
We never voted on it.
no.
Our mayor just did it,
So-
so there is some
So
controversy.
that was part of Verbacher had something to do with that, but some of the city didn't want to get too far into low or moderate income housing or low income housing over there at that part of the city, I guess. I don't know. So this is all I remember. Then I was appointed to be on here. That's all I know. But then, so, yes, we don't, as far as I know, the funding we have is for benevolent groups, and we fund down to Main Street, Mayville, and we fund the chamber, although I don't know if the chamber is still active, they kind of bowed out, I think. Are they still active?
Very active.
Okay, right. Who is it that bowed out? Okay, it was,
Chris,
Chris, yeah,
We just had a change in presidents.
yeah, okay. So,
Which is.
right, and you've never really made your formal applications yet, downtown Main Street, Mayville, and whatever you.
Formal
used to-
applications.
They used to approach the city for,
That would have happened in November for budget
right,
and it was approved.
right, and well, it was approved, it used to be 10 for one and 5 for the other, then it
And
was
that's what it
10 for
is.
the both, and you split it, okay.
No, it was 10 for one and 5 for the other.
Okay, and we did approve that,
Yep.
but you can't find it in the budget.
No, that I think
Okay.
I've done that, but I don't. I've got
The chamber's already received theirs.
Yeah,
Main
Okay.
Street has not, but the chamber has.
so I think Main Street has 2 now, but those actually aren't in the CDA budget, they're in a different portion.
Okay.
They're not part of the CDA.
Yeah.
correct.
I'm sorry to hear what you.
It's not part of the CDA budget.
No.
Come from the city.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, it comes from the.
Pays your rent, I guess, right, for half, right? So are you expecting to get it?
hopefully from Main Street, yes. The chamber, like I said, the chamber received theirs already.
Okay, why didn't you get it?
Why didn't I get it?
Yeah,
I don't know. I sent my second request in about 2 weeks ago.
okay,
So I think we've sent that up, yeah, but I'll look to see.
so that's good, that's what this is. I remember you telling me one time, you have to be here, but you can't speak, kind of thing. So I'm talking about this so that our new comptroller treasurer can write things down, and look for them, so we can make everybody, put everything back together again. Does anybody understand what I'm talking about? Because it's kind of discombobulated along with COVID and the cancellation of meetings and whether this is gonna, you know. So anyway, I'm done. These are all the things you put on the agenda, what you,
Okay,
or Nick, deal with.
all right, anything else on this subject while we're still here? Nick, you wanna move on then?
Hearing none, we'll move on. Park Square opening, you're doing that again this year, I assume?
Okay, Dawn, what did you have in mind?
I was just hoping that we would continue to carry on opening the park. My suggestion for this year would be June through Audubon Days.
Which is like 5, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
September, well, June, July, August, and then,
September.
yeah, September is Audubon Days.
What did it run now, like, Memorial?
Well, we started in May last year, and then we closed when the street was being worked on,
Yeah, that's,
on Bridge Street.
Oh, yeah.
but now we want to keep it consecutive. Okay. Is that something we have to vote on, or is that something
It would have to be recommended to council, I think,
to
don't
be
you?
voted on?
And
So,
yeah, I'm sure you haven't talked to we've got 2 or 3 entities who are all of a sudden not as, let's say, enthusiastic about it as they were in the past. Maybe they should be here at this meeting talking about it.
Can I ask who these entities are that aren't enthusiastic?
Well, I heard some people, I thought it was you actually, some people downtown, about half of them say, no, we don't like losing the parking. The police are not as happy with the lack, they said there was. And the main thing is the city, the public works doesn't wanna close off the street again. That's
That would be
what
the only one that I know that probably doesn't want to have to do the work.
But I think it's very valuable.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, yeah,
I polled all the businesses on all of our events last fall and went through everything, and I do have a copy of that here if you want to look at it. There was only one business downtown that didn't feel that the square did any good.
okay,
One.
good.
I also last fall had to do, and maybe you guys are in different positions now, but I had to do a survey basically on parking downtown, which I did and presented it to the council. There's 187 or 188 parking spaces in the 1 block perimeter around Main Street. That wasn't counting your parking lot right out here. I didn't count that. And it takes 6, maybe 8 if you want to be technical about it. When you close off the square, it was determined at that point that we really didn't think we had a parking problem. We had a problem that people didn't want to have to walk across the street or in from our parking lots to get someplace.
we're all lazy.
Well, I guess I would make a motion that we recommend to the city council to reestablish the park for this year, running from June for June 1st, I guess we'd start with it until
Audubon Days.
Audubon Days weekend on Sunday, whatever that, we just follow that.
So. That we can do.
And she made a motion.
I'll second it then.
Motion and a second in favor, aye, aye, opposed,
I abstain.
and pass 3 and an abstain. And we need 4 for a quorum, or?
We need 4 for the quorum,
No, that passes.
but it passes because it's the majority of the quorum.
Okay, motion carried. Next
I
item,
abstain because I have property right in the district, and I don't want to be conflicted with, yes. Even have a parking lot.
oh, we could still hear your thoughts as a property owner on it.
What's that?
We could still hear
I
your
could,
thoughts.
but I choose not to.
Okay. Move on to holiday lights.
All right, so my thoughts on this is the city in the past would pay for the holiday lights. But because of all the commotion with, our accounts, whatever, we don't know if we have the money or not. So my thoughts would be that we set up either a committee or add it to one of the existing committees to raise money. And what were your ideas, Dawn?
I mean, I had put together a whole plan on what it would cost to put the greenery around the poles. I think you guys probably saw it. We didn't talk about it, but you saw it. That has expired as far as how the price goes. I think it went up almost 2,000 now from where we were at. So I think we went to like 7,700 is what it would cost to do 34 poles. So that probably, you know, that's just gonna make it a little bit harder to try to come up with funding for that. That didn't count the other things that we were gonna do for nothing, right? Like we had a plan to do Christmas trees, that Parks was gonna build. And we were gonna, you know, sell them to businesses 3 foot or 5 foot, and then create an avenue of trees through Foster Park. So that, you know, still can be a very active plan. We are considering a couple of options right now, to see how we can best help make this happen. I don't know that it's necessarily if it's Main Street or if it's an organization or how that actually works, but I guess we just met with someone that maybe could help us try to figure it out. So, I guess I have nothing else to say about that for today.
So you just met with somebody, and what did that somebody think they could do?
It's just it's a foundation basically that would help us gather funds. It wouldn't necessarily be funds then given to Main Street. We didn't want it to be like that. It would be a foundation gathering the funds for us so that we can make it public, make a very public request. And for specific donations strictly for lights downtown, and it would keep it very separate from anything that Main Street does. Our board has not had a chance to discuss this yet, so that's why I haven't, I
Okay,
don't want to go any further with it.
okay, well, that sounds promising.
So I guess the first question is, do we want to handle the holiday lights? Like, would that be something that we would handle under this committee? Because we need to, it needs to go someplace, right? Right? Somebody's got to handle.
For now, it kind of sounds like they've got you're at least exploring something.
We are exploring something. Yeah, I mean, I can come back at the next meeting with a little clearer picture of what that is.
But I mean, so she would come here, is what I'm saying, and then we would recommend it to council, right? Is that what, versus her just going right to council?
They are your polls and your everything. Absolutely. I wouldn't just take it on and do it without your approval.
Okay, and if all you're asking for is permission to put them up, I'm pretty sure that we could probably.
Well, that's where, remember the city crew, or the public works people, first of all, did we check to make sure that it's accurate, that none of the old lights are functional anymore or anything?
That would
And
come from the city.
that
That
came,
would come from the jack.
right, and that's the last time I heard, he said, no, they're all dry rotted, they're all this and that, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but then the other thing was, there was some problem with the new poles are lightweight and they can't handle too heavy of a. And that's why you went with the ribbons and.
Yeah, you addressed that.
Yeah, there's a number of them too that you can't either. They don't have electricity or they're not strong enough.
Right,
John Wild is the one who addressed how many poles we would actually be able to
so
do.
he's working with you on this?
Yes.
I'm glad, but, okay.
Okay, so then it's just a matter of her coming back and presenting when she's ready to this.
Right.
And this committee would then recommend it.
Right,
Or take.
We
right?
could,
Is that what you're,
we could,
okay,
okay.
so that just gets
That's,
tabled.
that's the best news I've heard about that so far. Amen. Well, it works.
Okay.
Does anyone object to tabling that till the next meeting? Or
I know, I'm good with that.
Mhm.
so I'll make a motion to table it,
I'll second.
Okay.
and it's simple, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, you say that now.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. New business applications?
I think this is about the facade applications.
Well, that's on there separate.
Otherwise, I don't know what this means, new business application, right?
Well, the city clerk would know. Has anybody come in for a,
I have not received any.
well, there's two that I know of.
Is that the
Have you
Saco?
worked with them, the one with the appliance guy?
They are someone I have not worked with. I get
Okay.
people randomly come in and ask about empty buildings. But what I don't hear if they come in for an
He's got a
application.
tenant now and they're moved in and he's already dealing with people. He's already made a couple of appointments to repair stoves and,
And he has or has
Well,
not.
the occupancy permits, I'm
Right.
sorry if I'm confusing them.
Okay.
There was a hometown
that's
appliance
it.
Okay, that's.
and, I believe it's also a hometown flooring who got their occupancy permit.
Hometown what, flooring?
Flooring.
That might be a different one.
Right, is that in the same building or?
We've had two. One is on Horicon Street. I can actually grab them.
Okay,
But
that's.
I misunderstood what you first.
So we have hometown flooring and hometown appliances.
Those are generally what we mean by new business applications. that are-
We just, yeah, we just label it.
The other one that has an app, that's in business already is the one selling purses and got part-time hours, but you probably know.
Dreams to designs.
Yes. Right,
Mhm.
Hometown Interiors has received their occupancy permit. They are at 111 Horicon Street. And then your hometown appliance repair at 48.5 North Main Street has their occupancy permit in process. It has not yet been issued.
Right, what was the 111 work on, what's the name of that again?
Hometown Interiors.
That's a new one on me.
Me too.
I don't even know what's going on in my own city. Oh my God.
111 Morrison Street, that seems to be
I'm sorry, 1111.
11, okay, good, because 111 is the car lot.
It's all one.
Is that down by the chiropractor?
It's probably in that shopping center, you know,
Yeah.
across the street from,
Dr. Barnes?
well, across the street. from-
1111C. So that would make sense.
Oh, it used to be the Currys and IB and Jubilee.
Yeah, where the old bank might be,
TSV.
Oh, that side.
yeah,
Okay,
Another
the old
side.
Piggly Wiggly.
yeah,
Okay.
that's what I would think. But anyway, yes, that answers that question, that's generally how,
So it's really occupancy
well,
permits.
we don't have business
Yeah.
licenses here. but
Right,
this-
Right.
that's really what it is. Okay.
That gives a heads up to,
Mhm.
Main Street, Mayville, and of course, that's a little out of Main Street, but still,
Yeah.
Chamber of Commerce.
Mhm.
There we go, we're not aware of any other applications, are we?
No, those are the only two I have recently or pending.
There's no action needed on that, so we can continue on, correct? Applications for new loans?
Yeah, not anybody.
We kind of covered that already, didn't we? With the Marks thing and old fashioned cheese and.
Who would they come to see?
There's a form they fill out.
Dawn, and they come into your office
Well,
side by side there when they.
yeah, typically someone will just walk in off the street and they'll ask what's available in the city. First, they're
And
looking
they
for
either talk to you or
a
who
building.
handles the,
They'll talk to me.
okay,
Mhm.
so if anybody would know, it'd be you.
Not always, right? If somebody is already a part of Main Street, they
Yeah.
might just go right on the city website and fill out an application for a facade grant or for a
Loan.
small business loan. And I don't hear about it, so then I wouldn't know.
Are we able to make loans now without knowing what our funding is?
I would probably be something I'd want to run past the auditors to see where that funding was being pulled from previously. So, and this you're talking about the revolving loan? I've seen that term. Is that what we're talking about?
It's probably the
Yes,
revolving
that's
loan.
that's what it is.
Okay,
Yeah, I think rather than able, there's just no action.
There's just no action. Mhm.
moving on.
None of these things ask about action, so when I'm
Well, they're more of an update. feel
I
like
know,
they're just like occupancy
I'm
permit
just wondering
updates.
if the thing we did with, let's see. What's the one we recommended the council? Technically, these items,
Or square.
Kim, that you put on here, what's it? Indicate with possible action.
Okay, Park Square opening,
What was it?
That was an action.
that was for,
Action.
Yeah, that was an act, well,
okay,
we might get
We do
slapped on the
have
wrist
it
for that.
under other items of discussion / possible action for all of these.
Okay, all right, good.
So kind of blanket.
Oh, yeah, I
in
didn't see
terms
that.
of.
Good, you're covered. We're covered. Never mind. Never mind, get too technical.
We're trying.
Yes.
No objections, let's move on to application for new facade grants. Anything?
I think we covered that already about the revolving loans and.
There's no new ones, so there's no action on that.
Okay, moving on, murals on Main Street.
This one I just put on, I asked for this one to be put on, basically just to let you know that we are considering hiring somebody to put a mural on Main Street. And wanted to make sure that that was, you know, agreeable with the rest of you. Posey's building on the corner, there's sections of wall that are opposite of the Mayville sign. And we're looking at having 3 of them painted. One of them, the first one farthest to the left would be, the state of Wisconsin would be put in there, and then it would be high, and it would have Mayville coming across it, and then it would highlight, let's say the Gold Star Trail, or it would highlight like any of our big things that we have. It'll show where the Rock River flows. It'll show, in just our tourist attractions, kind of like right around Mayville. It's almost like a zoom in area of Mayville, and what you'd be looking to find if you were here. Where's the Horicon Marsh, you know? It would be something like that, but just with pinpoints of our attractions. The second one we're looking at is actually marsh highlights. And it would probably show effigy mounds, and it would have like our native birds that we have. We're trying to bring a little bit more of Horicon Marsh into Mayville, right? And be directing our tourism in the right way and show that we are part of all of that. I think that we kind of don't do enough of that. And then the third one, what we're looking at doing is like our clock. So the clock that's downtown, putting that in there, putting some small wordage in there, and then maybe a picture or 2 that's interactive, where people can stand up in front of it and have their picture taken, so that you see our clock right there with, you know, whatever, and it's a butterfly or it's a whatever it is, right? So we have somebody that's drawing some of those things up, and I'd be happy to show you them. But for us, it would be, we have to, you know, figure out a way to get funding to pay for that as well, so.
You know, have a contest.
The first one, we didn't run as a contest. Someone had actually even approached us with the idea and wanted to do it. And I think going forward, because I have like 3 other places I would consider doing them, we might want to make more of a contest out of it and then submit drawings out to even the public and let them kind of choose, you know, what the next.
Did you check with John Gable, I'm sure?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
One thing I could say, from being around here too long, and that is, you might want to check with the building inspector. There are rules about this, and they having to do with distractions for the same as billboards.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to get some kind of a sign permit for, believe it or not, for a mural, because it is a distraction.
Yeah, for people to look at.
And especially if there's an element of any kind of motion or lighting that goes with it, that gets restricted. I'm sure that the building inspector knows about it.
Okay.
And the last, oh, and did you know there used to be, might still be remnants there. There was quite the mural on the side of next to the library, the building
The
where.
Edge Studio,
What's that?
the Edge Studio.
Yeah, up
Up on the top.
yeah, there was one there,
Mhm.
and there was one, we did have a billboard for the longest time. I don't know, it's still there over by, across the street from that. I think the billboard down, used to be a down billboard allowed.
Oh, yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
if it's there anymore.
That was a lot of years ago.
Wasn't there a normal thing there like 40 years ago?
Yes,
That's what I remember.
yeah, I remember that.
But, you know, just check with the building inspector,
Okay.
check with the state highway signs, especially when you get near intersections, we ran into all kinds of problems when banks and schools wanted to put up these signs on their front and clocks and moving this and that, and
Mhm.
you gotta be careful because, if it's a distraction for drivers, believe it or not, it can cause, somebody's looking at the mural and can crash into somebody. But as he would know the rules about it.
So
Will
another
do, I appreciate
question,
that.
have you reached out at all to the high school?
Not yet,
Okay,
no, they would probably be our next,
Yeah.
because we'd want some, a cardinal something
yeah,
downtown, yeah.
The one that was most, Milwaukee had tons of them, but the one that was in Dodge County, Beaver Dam, had a whole big mural program and it was
They're
very
still doing it.
successful and, yeah, so they're known, besides the guitarists, they're known for the city of murals or something,
Yeah.
so.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
all right, so, how do we want to address this one then? For now,
Sound like there's any action we need to take at this point.
I didn't need any action, all I wanted to do is just inform you.
okay, great. Do we need to, table it or anything, bring it back up? Okay,
I mean, if
The only time you do that is if you want it to appear automatically on the next agenda, then you table it and it appears, otherwise you have to agendize things like that. If you take no action, to get them back up there.
all right.
and I'm assuming if you need us to take action, we'll come back and,
Ask for it.
so, no objections. Item 7, vacant buildings on Main Street.
That was me with that on there too. There are a few buildings that are eyesores. And I guess if anybody's got the answers for me, out of all of us, what can we do on a legal city standpoint to either make these owners sell them, number one, for the vacant buildings? My other question is, I see a couple of shops that really could use some new windows or something. They're pretty sad looking, and the owner of this building, who actually, I don't even know who it is, but it's like 3 shops. The 2 on the side are now vacant, closed, one operating in the middle, but the windows are like really pathetic looking, and it's a bad.
I don't know which one you're talking about.
They're okay, where Neil Envy is, that's open, but there's one on each side of that place.
Oh.
And the windows, I mean, I've seen old cowboy movies where the windows look better.
Down near the Legion, you talking about? Where
Well-
Mary's,
Not that far. Not as far as Mary's. It would be like kind of across the street from Sidelines.
oh. Well, that's a new one on me.
Or just walk down there.
I thought you were talking about the one next to, the one that everybody's talking about.
Next to our office.
Yeah.
That is one.
That one there, you could, if you
12 South
approach
Main.
the building inspector, he can enforce that if somebody has a complaint. And that, because the rear stairs, which is the egress needed to inhabit the upstairs, has become impossible to, it collapsed. And, they used to have a rodent problem, remember when we had them all the garbage away, they used to store in a trailer. That's one of those unfortunate things that happened when 3 years ago, when the banks stopped collecting loans and they didn't enforce it, then the guy who lived upstairs who owned the building, 3 different banks show up as having liens on it, nobody wants to enforce it, they don't want it, so the person there pays taxes and nobody evicts them. So it's that young guy that used to be, I don't know who's, I don't think anybody's in there, but kind of hard to chase them out of there.
The one that's in, the person that owns it now, her name is Bonnie Steinmetz.
That's the mother of the son that had.
He sold it to her at when,
Right,
I think the
because-
city came after him to get things fixed
Right.
up, and he sold it to her and then it just kind of got
And
dropped.
she happens to be a realtor.
Yes,
How coincidental. And she doesn't return my calls either.
Right. We have in the ordinances, you know, as you're aware, you gotta have, you can't have living quarters on the first floor in the business district. Can't,
So,
you can't really fake, you're not really supposed to fake it like he does in, like I do.
I can make a call to Rob Fro again.
Well, it has to have a complaint, you know, and I don't know. I don't know if anybody's living upstairs there, you
no,
know.
I haven't seen any movement over there other than the guy who replaced the glass. When that broke down there on the bottom corner, I haven't seen, since I,
Did they ever take that TV out of the window? That old TV that's laying, sitting in the window for 5 years.
no, it might still be in there.
I thought there was tape across the break in the window, but.
There used
They replaced part of that window,
Okay.
yeah.
I still can't picture what building we're talking.
It's right next to the Wings building, where my office
Between the
is.
coffee shop.
On that same side of the street?
Mhm. It's between our building, the Wings building and Gateway.
Right,
There's actually the old Main Street Chamber,
Mhm.
years and years ago.
We'll have to look closer at that.
It's a pretty building inside there.
what did you say it was years ago?
It used to be the Main Street and the Chamber built offices were in there
Right,
years
and
ago.
before that, was owned by a
And there was-
eye doctor or?
Yeah, that's when I was in there with the eye doctor.
Dr. Kennett's,
Mhm,
Yeah,
Dr. Kennett's office.
Mhm.
Oh,
Dr. Kent's, right.
mhm,
okay.
mhm.
and it used to be very nice
It
looking
was
once
very
upon a
beautiful.
time.
Yes, it was very nice.
And then as long as we're on the subject, and I can't seem to get a direct answer to this. I thought there was a law that you had to have back entrances, you know, 2 exits.
Oh, fun for that.
Yeah, I thought that was a law.
So over a certain square footage, first of all, if you have a shop, you have to have another exit. If it's over a certain size, the building inspector knows all this. But if you have upstairs, there has to be a access and egress and alternate. But I don't know if that one you're talking about, I think they're supposed to have, if they use the upstairs, they have to have that back porch work. I
Well,
don't,
what if it's a business? You have a
well, there's no
business,
business in there.
but if you had a business, let's say we have an ongoing business, do you have to have two doors?
I used to think so, but the place next to Mary's where the jeweler was for a while, now he's across the street, what's his name?
John,
John Jacobs rented that for a while, and he was excused from having another entrance because it was too small. But ordinarily, yeah, you have to have a way to get out if the front door is blocked anymore. Those are all questions for Rob Pro, you can drive him crazy because he
oh,
hates
I've driven him crazy, or I'll do it again. All right, there, I'll call Rob. That's all I have for now.
Anybody else have business?
I'll bring up again, I brought it up last year. Is there a reason that we wouldn't want to have Dawn on part of our committee so we could talk about this versus always putting that on the agenda? And she is part of the chamber and Main Street.
I mean,
It only makes sense.
freaked me out when I asked her.
It doesn't make any sense for me for that she comes to all these meetings, but she doesn't have a vote or
That was the last administration.
we have to ask for her to have items on the agenda so she can address it. So that's my thing, like, how do you change that? Like, do you just,
Can we vote on it tonight?
why can't, that's what I'm asking, but it's, I mean,
Probably have to,
put it on the business.
agenda for the next.
Well, I
meeting.
think we have to look at the
The structure.
the organizational,
How many members?
well, no, not so much that, but she can just be an expert. I mean, a member, she can be somebody who,
The representative?
yeah, and she can be part of CDA's, business representative or the downtown representative, but I think we have, somebody has to look into, that would be a good job for Annie, look into the organizational, how this came about, the CDA, what it, it came about because Belk said, you're doing this all wrong. You can't give out TIF money without having a community development authority. So then we did. And then it went a little beyond that. And they are the ones who said, Dawn, you have to be here. First of all, they defunded her. Then they said, but you have to be here, but you can't say anything. I thought that was the weirdest thing I ever heard in my life. However, we can fix that through organizational, but we first have to see how this was constituted, you know, what the function, the purpose of it is. We used to have, remember the lady from Verbacher, she would sit out there and she'd participate, but Main Street Mayville couldn't. I always thought it was odd.
Yeah, it is, that's because it is on.
Why don't you make a motion to, I don't know, include and somebody, we could make a motion to include Main Street Mayville
And the chamber.
and the chamber and ask for a report, but then they're kind of like summoned to be here. I know Dawn shows up anyway. Would the chamber stop coming?
I think they need to be part of this committee somehow.
Yeah, well,
So we have to, so
we have to,
we vote on having that you looked into or so that
But
it's.
since it's not an agenda item, we can't motion or anything on that
No, no.
tonight.
But we can put it on our next.
Can put it on the, yeah, yep.
right, but maybe you can investigate to see how this was formed and what the rules are for this committee, and then we could change it.
Okay, that would be my
And
recommendation.
if you want to talk to Lisa to see what you come up with.
The
Or
idea
Nick.
being that each group is able to, select their own representative to the board. Or,
Right, or it could be as simple as asking the committee, the CDA, if it continues, could ask for a report from different city entities, you know what I mean?
As well.
And then invite them to be here,
Mhm.
and then they have a presentation, I don't know.
Okay.
For some, it always bothered me that, what you told me once, I have to be there, but I can't say anything, and I was like, what is
Makes
that?
sense to me. Right,
agreed,
okay.
Anyway,
Yeah, I don't know.
read it an agenda item.
And the
Yeah,
next
put that-
agenda.
Yeah. sorry,
And then do you still anticipate to meet on the 22nd in 2 weeks, or do we want to just wait until the regular April meeting time? Cause I know this kind of got,
Yeah,
What do you think, Nick?
I don't see any pressing need to meet again in 2 weeks. If everyone else is okay with it, I'm
Let's
okay with waiting,
wait.
yeah.
we might have some more answers. by then,
Yeah,
too.
let's
Oh, yeah, because that would be a regular.
get a couple days for a couple of things on the agenda before we all get together again.
Absolutely.
Oh,
I'm
if
game.
Okay.
something super pressing came up, we could call a special meeting with the,
Mhm.
or whatever it is, 10 days notice or whatever.
Sure. Okay.
Other than that, unless there's other business, I'll move to adjourn.
And
I'll second.
Favor aye, aye,
Bye.
opposed? You stand adjourned.
All right, take care,
I didn't
everybody.
mean to hijack your
No, you're
thing there,
fine.
but.
I'm gonna go get some fish on the golf course.
Just so you all know, it takes a